This episode of Techzilla is sponsored by NVIDIA,
Squarespace.com,
and GoDaddy.com. Coming up on today's show, Veronica is back from E3, and oh boy does she have stuff to tell us about. The excitement, the fun, the parties, and I hear there were video games there too. We begin the process of pulling together the monster gaming rig, our own personal selection of amazing parts. You wanted some gaming recommendations, we needed to build a system, so why the heck not? And you know what? We're gonna give it away too. And as always, we have a stack of your viewer questions, so take your potty break if you need one now, and don't forget to wash your hands before exiting the restrooms, especially if you're working in a food service facility, because Techzilla starts now. Welcome to Techzilla. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
You're back!
Yay!
There was protesting in the streets. There were lists on the internets.
No, there were not. Roger did a great job.
He did, actually.
He always does a good job.
Props to Roger, ladies and gentlemen, for stepping in last week.
Props
for Roger,
he
says.
wanted mad props,
he
says, so we gave him the mad props. Yeah, so E3 was fun.
He was fun. It's a gaming thing.
It is a gaming convention, correct. It's a little more toned down than it used to be. It used to be all about the spectacle, and they had millions upon millions of dollars spent on the booths for the major developers like Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. They've way toned it back now, so it's all about the news.
So you kind of travel from like suites to suites, and you go in and you see people's demos, and it's very low key for industry insiders.
Yeah, there were fun parties though. That was kind of the best part. What
was your favorite? I mean, is there anything? Yeah, I'm sure there were NDAs signed for stuff you can't talk about. What was your favorite thing there?
My favorite thing, well, you know, I was covering it for Core, so it was a Sony thing. So I can't talk too much about all the other stuff. That's my disclaimer. But I do play other consoles, and let's see, Little Big Planet.
Your eyes just started to shine and glisten.
I'm really excited about Little Big Planet. Fallout 3 was really fun. I got my hands on that. Rock Band 2, I played a good amount of. Went to the Rock Band party and saw the Who play.
On stage.
I was not. Well, there was a stage there. I mean, everyone who played was on stage at the Rock Band party. Okay. So it wasn't like I did anything special.
So you weren't like up there with Roger Daltrey. And
that would have been awesome. I totally would have been like, kind of like that.
Sorry, it's just I've seen Roger Daltrey recently, and I'm just going to pass on to the next image in my head. Shall we?
Yeah, but there was a lot of good stuff. I mean, of course, Microsoft had their big announcements about the new interface that looks really cool.
Roger was weeping with joy.
Gears of War 2 looks pretty freaking awesome also. So there's so many good titles coming out. Fable 2, like Fallout 3, like I mentioned. We'll talk more about it later. But yeah, we should move on because I could go on for a long time.
Speaking of going on for a long time, we had a metric ton of responses about alternative methods of SMS, basically sending messages without using your cell phone. And we wanted to wait for your triumphant return before we got into this.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Because text messaging is something near and dear to my heart.
As is AIM and Twitter and email, and I believe you actually have several fax numbers.
You know, actually, a fax number is something I do not have.
So that's like the
at home. I don't have a landline, so it doesn't work for me.
Because you're always like, I need your phone number and your cell phone number and your home phone number and your fax number and your Twitter number and your.
We learned from all the emails that you guys sent in that there are so many different ways that you can send text messages without ever needing to touch your phone that it's unbelievable. One handy method sent to us by Wes forgoes the web method altogether as well.
This is so awesome.
And goes straight to email. He says, I think it would be much simpler to not use a program/web-based service and simply send an email. If you format the email address correctly, it will be forwarded to the phone number. The following are just the providers that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there are more out there. So he's got all the lists for T-Mobile, Virgin, Singular, Sprint, Verizon, Nextel, Singular, AT&T.
It's awesome, and I actually was able to, I emailed myself a text message on my phone. It was very exciting.
Just to test it?
Just to test it. Yeah, well, I'm not going to read the number out, but we'll actually have all of those listed in the show notes so you can check them out.
Yeah, and Wes, thanks for doing all the legwork for us, too. I mean, that was pretty in-depth. We should hire him as some kind of, like, information gathering guy. I shouldn't say that kind of thing. I have no control over that. Anyhow, Raymond has another non-web-based idea. He says a better way to do this is to go to Chica, chikka.com, that's C-H-I-K-K-A, I think I'm pronouncing it right, and download their messenger application. You can send and receive free SMS messages without having to log into a website. However, the application is only for Windows, and if you're using any other operating system, you have to log in from their website. So you can do it with a login or without, depending on what OS you're running.
Cool.
He also goes on to say that you can send free international text messages to countries that they support. You can send it to other countries outside their supported area for a small fee, too. I've been using this application for years, and I'm very pleased with the service.
Yay. That's two.
That's two
methods
so far that are different. Then we had a bunch of people write in, and they were talking about teleflip. Lynn says, the easiest way I have ever found to do this is to simply use an email client. That's the email thing again. But this is a specific service. Use the recipient's telephone number at teleflip.com in the to field, and the email body will show up as the SMS message. Teleflip will determine the recipient's cell phone carrier and forward it along.
I bet with a little bit of advertising.
With a little bit of advertising probably at the bottom, like this
Possibly.
text message brought to you by Teleflip. I didn't try that one, so I'm not sure what kind of
You go on to the next one. And
okay, you go do that. And finally, if you're so a part of the IM culture that you can't even bear to pick up your phone, you can send a text message from right within AIM. Just create a new message with the phone number +1 and the area code, and it'll send it right along. And thanks to everyone who sent in that tip, and to all the others, we'll never have to worry about our iPhones dying and being textless ever again. And of course, our pals over at Pop Siren covered similar ground in Pop Siren Byte number 39, where they showed off Teleflip that ties your email account to your phone via text. So check out that show too.
They got good stuff over there.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Those ladies, they're smart chicks.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to thank one of the sponsors of today's show, Squarespace.com. This is pretty slick. It's a publishing system for anybody looking to build a blog, a portfolio, pretty much any kind of website. And they just came out with a new release July 25th. It's basically a tool to allow anybody, no coding experience necessary, to build high-end, complex websites, and to do it without coding. This is great if you're like me and you can't code your way out of a paper bag. And their idea is that they'll allow you to add some of the same features that you see in some of the biggest sites on the web without actually having to employ programmers. Pretty cool, huh? Large businesses, blogs, it's a small company, but they have an amazing ability to let you build some pretty incredible web pages. I've seen some demos. I'm looking forward to get my hands on it because I think even I might be able to make a page that isn't ugly. Do us a favor, check out squarespace.com. Support us by supporting our sponsors.
Welcome to this week's freebie download pick, a free program that we find useful, fun, or incredibly interesting. Today's selection, Enlight. If you're still rocking Windows XP, you know what a pain it can be to do a fresh install of those OSs. The actual installation is easy, but all the updates, drivers, and service packs that you have to find, download, and install afterwards just makes you want to scream. Well, not to worry. Thanks to the Enlight. The arcane magic of slipstreaming updates and hot fixes into your Windows install disk is made easy and accessible to anyone. Plus, Enlight enables you to automate the process of installing Windows XP with custom install options so you don't have to babysit the process. All you need are your Windows install disks, serial number, the updates, hardware drivers, and a list of things you want automated during the XP's install, including the tedious serial number entry. Just follow Enlight's on-screen prompts and select what features and additions you want to include on your updated install disk. Now, if you find Enlight a little overwhelming, the website provides a helpful step-by-step guide that should have you making custom Windows XP install disks in no time. Once everything is compiled, you can create a bootable ISO disk that you can burn with any CD burning tool. And voila! You got yourself an updated Windows XP install with all the updates, drivers, and tweaks you need for your system. And all that for absolutely no money. And how can you beat that?
Hey, are you ready for more emails?
I am always ready for emails.
Tech questions?
Those two.
Outstanding. Here's the first one coming up from John. He writes rather indignantly, my question is why you do not have some kind of coverage or special for E3 from Tekzilla. I'm not saying anything like live coverage, just your take on the new announcements. Thanks for all the great work so far. Keep them coming, and I will keep downloading to watch on my Xbox 360. John.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, the short answer is that Veronica was down at E3, and we weren't, so we couldn't provide coverage until after the event was over because we had to be here to produce Tekzilla and System while she was at E3. Plus, like, we don't have a ticket for E3, but weren't invited. They didn't want us anyway. The Totally Rad show was down there doing some cool stuff. Veronica's doing some cool stuff for her
Core.
gig. I can never say that name right. I always want to call it Cube.
And then I
okay,
start
know
thinking
it's
about
hard.
Qbert.
All
And then I
four
go,
letters. It's really-
anyhow, video games are dangerous for me. And that's actually the real reason I don't really go to E3 is because I'm the kind of guy who sits down and plays for 24 hours and wakes up
They
divorced.
don't really let you.
And living in youth.
They don't really let you. You sit down for like 5 minutes and they're like, okay, next, move it along. You have to
Move it
make an
along.
appointment to play half the games.
On a serious note, ranting aside, John, we simply can't be everywhere at once, and we didn't really hear anybody out there going, is Techzilla going to E3? If there's an event you guys want us to cover, email us and let us know, because we build the show around what you guys want to see, and gals for that matter.
Very, very true.
Speaking of which, what was the big announcements this year at E3?
The big announcements, well, for PS3, they finally got the movies and TV shows on the PSN, so that was pretty cool. We had the massive action game called MAG, 256 players at once. That's going to be insane.
Is that like a first-person shooter from hell?
Kind of, yeah, pretty much.
I can be
That's
fragged
gonna
by
work.
255 other people.
DC Ultimate Online,
Ouch.
multiplayer, superheroes. And then Xbox 360 had Netflix, which is huge.
Roger was weeping softly about. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to say weeping softly anymore. Roger was very excited about the Xbox 360 announcements.
Softly. Yeah, they had the new dashboard that I mentioned earlier, and they got Final Fantasy 13.
Really?
Which is also big news. Yeah, so all the Final Fantasy nuts are excited because they can play it on both systems.
I think I'm the only person in the world who's never actually played any version of Final Fantasy.
No way.
Not
Really?
even once.
Not even 10?
Nope.
Not even any of the earlier ones?
Nope.
Wow.
I've
I'm
never
impressed.
crossed paths with Final Fantasy.
Okay, well, that's your prerogative. I
feel
guess
like
I
a
can't
leper.
judge you too much on that.
Not
Not
that
everyone
there's
is a
anything wrong with
JRPG
being a leper.
fan. But, you know,
Just-
I'll just try not to judge you as much as I am in my heart right now.
I know. I can feel it.
You can feel the...
Withers and glare.
Yeah, but there were tons of big games. I mean, Killzone 2 made a big appearance. People have been waiting for that for a long time. Little Big Planet is insane. It's way more insane than I even thought possible. Gears of War 2, you know, Marcus is still doing his thing, looking hot. Love him. Get those locusts. Fable 2, you can build your own house and have like your little family waiting for you when you come home from questing. And then you can actually call in buddies.
I have a family waiting for me at home when I come home.
No, if you're pretend family, way more interesting. Way
like
more
my
interesting.
internet friends.
And then I played a good amount of time playing Fallout 3 too.
Cool.
And I'm super excited about that one. Did you play Oblivion at all?
No.
No? It's similar. I mean, it's a lot different than previous versions of Fallout. So this one is definitely more along the lines of Oblivion. And it's
Cool.
They still got those like kind of creepy heads. Like when you go in to talk to someone, they zoom right in on their face and then they kind of look at you like that. They say, go find Farmer Brown over at the farm and he will tell you more information.
Sounds really creepy.
Yeah. So that's
That
the
is-
only thing that kind of drives me nuts. But otherwise, it's a super game. They did a great job.
You haven't mentioned anything about the Wii, are there even PC games at E3?
Yeah, there are PC games and Wii stuff. I didn't make it to their press conference, unfortunately. I heard it wasn't as mind-blowing as the other two.
Once you've released Wii Fit and all the YouTube
Yeah,
videos
Wii
to
Fit was a
follow.
huge hit, so they're doing well with that actually. Surprisingly, because I played it and I couldn't figure it out. It was just too much for me.
Was there,
Wii
like, Wii
Music,
Baton?
yeah. That thing is really funny. I played it for a while.
Is it like Wii Band or is it like Wii Orchestra?
It's like Wii Band almost, but it's Wii Music. So you can pick different instruments and you can play. You can wear a dog suit and bark.
Dog
It's
suit?
like I don't really get
On
it.
the video game or in real life?
I can't pass
Don't
judgment
answer that.
though, so it's.
Let's just
Not my
slide right on from the E3 coverage to another video email.
This one comes from Patrick.
Not me.
Hi Patrick and Veronica, this is Patrick here from Quebec, Canada. I had a question in regards to my Nikon Digital D40 SLR camera. I've been using it for almost a year now and I haven't used really the DSLR mode because I'm not familiar with all the terminology and the menus and stuff. And so what I'm asking is if you have any recommendation for books or online website or maybe audiobooks that I could use to get better at using an SLR camera. Keep up the good work and take care.
Okay, so Patrick wants some recommendations for websites, books, audiobooks to learn and understand the terminology of SLR cameras so he can use his Nikon D40 in manual mode instead of automatic mode. All right, Patrick, first of all, find or download the manual for your camera. This is the place to start with. There's tons of good info in there, including, most important, how to navigate the menus and controls on your camera, because you have to learn how to use those so you can control all these cool settings. Books, I gotta say, whether we're talking about a Linux how-to manual or something to learn in Office or something to learn how to program, Go to your favorite bookseller, find a photography book written in a style you enjoy. Basically, what you're learning here, the core of manual control over a camera is controlling exposure. ISO or sensitivity, which you used to change by changing film stock, now you change the setting. Shutter speed, aka how long the shutter stays open to gather light, and the aperture, how big the hole through which your lens gathers light is. By manipulating these settings, you can do some really cool stuff, from taking better pics in low light settings to completely changing the feel of a photograph by leaving the background in or out of focus. There's just tons of cool stuff. Basically, just pick up some photography books. You like the way they read, they present, just, you know, that's why they're on the shelves, so you can check them out. The info is going to be pretty much the same. This hasn't changed a lot in the last 50 years, but the writing style and the format varies a lot. Find the book you like. Now, online resources.
I was going to say like DSLR for dummies.
That would be a very good one.
I just made that up. That probably exists though, I'm guessing.
I suspect it does. Yeah, the dummies books are great. I mean, there's going to be, like, if you walk into the super bookstore, there's going to be, you know,
there's going to be shelves and shelves of this kind of stuff, for sure.
And it's basically, you know, learning how to your camera is kind of specific to the settings in the manual, but learning manual control over a camera, like, basically just pick up a book. And there's a ton of online resources. I'd love for folks to email us their favorite digital photography learning sites. Some of our favorite ones include digitalphotographyschool.com. And they actually have a really awesome collection of tips for beginners. It's really good. AGuntherphotography.com. He's a photographer, does a ton of explainers, and they're very technical. So if you like geeking out, you'll love it. Shortcourses.com. Sweet and simple introductions to basic photographic technology and technique. And there are brand-specific sites like the Nikon Learning Center and Canon's Tips and Techniques pages that you can go to. One of my favorite photography blogs, actually, you want to do this one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
One of our favorite is Thomas Hawk's Digital Connection. He's an amazing photographer that's local to the Bay Area. And he has the most excellent 10 tips for the new digital SLR photographer. And that is wonderful. Yeah, it's a really good, just basic list of things that you can do to kind of get yourself going with your new camera. And he suggests you start working with ISO first. The best thing about digital photography, manual or automatic, is that it's so cheap to practice compared to film cameras. So pick something, take pics, change settings, take pics, pretty much see what happens.
Yeah,
it's all about, you know, what's
just
the word?
Playing. Experimenting.
Experimenting. Thank you.
And it's so cheap. When I was like 12, I could afford like a roll of film every 3 weeks. Now you've got a memory stick. It's a memory card, a CF card, an SD card. You can take thousands of photos on it.
And
get
storage
together.
is so cheap too.
Absolutely.
So you can take a bunch of pictures and save them and work on them later. You just never really have to worry about it as much.
Yeah, if you get lucky also, one of the things like Thomas Hawk does, they put together these walking tours where they'll get a bunch of people together, and at a particular place they consider photogenic or potentially photogenic, and they all walk around and they all look for their own pictures of this environment they're walking through, whether it's like downtown Portland or an abandoned building or whatever it might be. Getting together with people who really like photography, you can learn so much by talking to them. So don't actually, you know, forsake the possibility of interacting with people while you're learning about digital camera fun.
And
like
hey,
camera tossing.
Camera tossing. Oh God, not the camera tossing again. That gives me a heart attack every time I think about it. Anyhow, I mean, pictures aren't the only way that you can get your work out there.
True.
Ready for this segue?
I'm feeling it.
You can also make a 15-second video question to send to us here at Tekzilla. All you need to do is record yourself in front of a video asking a question, like I said, no longer than 15 seconds. Then upload them to YouTube and email us a link with video question in the subject line. And no attachments. We don't want your freaking attachments, okay? We're not even going to look at them. So don't be shy. Send us your video emails.
I believe Veronica has a dream of an entire video question show, perhaps even live video questions via Skype.
A girl can dream.
A girl can dream.
It's time now to thank one of our sponsors, GoDaddy.com. Web hosting from GoDaddy.com includes 99.9% uptime, 24/7 support, and free access to Hosting Connection, the place to install over 30 free applications sure to help you get the most from your hosting plan and website. Transfer your domain to GoDaddy for as little as $6.99 and get a free 1-year extension plus guaranteed renewal pricing. GoDaddy.com makes transferring easy and offers loads of extras, including hosting, a 5-page site builder, complete email, total DNS control, and much more. All for as low as $6.99. What are you waiting for? Plus, enter code TECH2 when you check out and save an additional $5 off any order of $30. Some restrictions apply. See site for details. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com. Support us by supporting them. Looks like it's time for another websites we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. Today's pick, Cha-Cha. Have a question? Cha-cha has the answer. I'm going to say it like that for this whole segment. Just watch. Or at least they send you in the right direction for that answer. Now, this is kind of an atypical websites we just can't get enough of segment because while you can use chacha.com to find answers to your most pressing inquiries, the real awesomeness comes from using it right from your cell phone. Here's how it works. Say you're out at dinner and you get into a conversation about, oh, what's the best temperature to froth milk for a latte? You can either text your question to Cha-Cha at 242242, that spells Cha-Cha in case you were wondering, or call them at 1-800-2-CHA-CHA. Within minutes, one of their guides will actually respond to you, always via text, with the answer that they find. And so you have something to verify the response. They'll even send you a link to a website so you can check it out. Naturally, standard text messaging rates apply, but it's definitely a time saver if you're out and about and don't want to bother scouring Google for the answers you seek. Make someone else do it for you. Costume change!
I feel like we're in Vegas.
I'm not going to make a tassels joke this time around. I'm just not going to. Anyway, are you ready to bring help to the helpless, hope to the hopeless, and hap to the hapless?
And suddenly we were an episode of Angel, Veronica. Am I Spike?
Right,
Do you
sure.
want to be Angel?
You can, whatever you want to be, you can be all that you can be.
In fact, I'm going to be all that I can be talking about gaming PCs. We've been getting a ton of emails about gaming PCs ever since we had Jason Cross on a few weeks ago. And we decided it was high time we built us a big old fat honking gaming PC.
So you mean like an instructional, step-by-step how to cobble together your gaming PC complete with parts recommendations, installation pointers, and witty banter?
Something like that.
Yes.
Yes, actually, a funny thing happened while we were working on this. NVIDIA agreed to pay for the parts for this build-up and give the machine we build to one of you at the end of the project.
Ho-ho!
Pretty cool, huh?
Ho-ho!
So let's take a look at all the things we would cram into our badass monster gaming PC using some of the best parts on the market. Thankfully for NVIDIA, they're still at the top of the graphics card performance heap with their GTX 280 video cards, and the new 790i Enforce chipsets are pretty sweet because NVIDIA would kind of like us to use as many of their products as we can for this because they're paying for it. It's a little sponsorship thing, but one of you is going to build, actually, we're going to build. One of you is going to win an epic gaming PC.
I got a little sad face on because I want an epic gaming PC.
Well, we can build you one next.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes. I am ready. Let's do it.
Okay, power supply, Corsair CMP SU-1000HX, 1,000 watts of goodness. Actually, this is one of the top reviewed hard drives by the folks at hardocp.com.
Nice.
Yes, they actually do some pretty stringent power supply reviewing to ensure to keep sorry, I'm going to try the whole English thing. To ensure the rig keeps on running with the 2 cards, SLI, and 3 hard drives, which is going to suck a lot of power. It's definitely going to 1,000 watts. This should be 1,000 legitimate watts. This should do it.
That's a good amount of money, too.
Yes, actually, we're talking about like a $270 power supply.
Not bad.
We didn't say this is. We're not actually going out of our way to spend stupid money on this, but this is a pretty serious enthusiast.
No, you want the good
machine.
stuff. You want to make it as future-proof as possible, so you might as well spend good money on it.
But I think the next one we build is going to be like a $700 gaming machine.
That would rule.
Yeah, because basically it's amazing what you can get. It's amazing the performance you get for not as much money. But right now, though, let's talk about hard drives. We're going to use 2 of these in a RAID 0 configuration because Roger Chang loves RAID 0 and he won the coin flip for OS and Game installs from Western Digital's Velociraptors. These things are obscene. They're only 300 gigabytes, but they are the fastest drives on the market right now you can buy, at least run in the serial ATA format. And for data, we're going to use the Seagate Barracuda ES.2. That's a 1 terabyte, 7200 RPM drive with 32 megabytes of cache, because we can't score any 1.5 terabyte drives yet. So you got a terabyte for storage and your homework and your music files and anything else you may have.
Ooh, Barracuda.
Barracuda.
I like that. And then we have the Cooler Master Stacker 830 Evolution, roughly $279. I guess that's precisely $279. Yeah, Roger loves that case, and Patrick does as well. And it can handle the egg frying heat from a pair of twin 280S and SLI mode, screaming out pixels. Hot stuff. Hot stuff.
The Zalman cases are pretty sick because they're silent, but they don't deal so well with the super, super hot cards.
Hot cha-cha.
Hot cha-cha.
See, I worked that into another segment.
It's a scary concept. For the core, the processor, the CPU, Intel Core 2 Duo E8400 running at 3 gigahertz. I can hear you crying out now in the wilderness that we didn't use quad core. It's because basically there's no really good use for quad cores in gaming right now.
Not taking advantage of it, right?
Yeah, it's, you know, it would be great. For this, if you're buying a quad core and you're gaming, you're basically going like, I got quad cores because I got quad cores. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, there's nothing wrong with quad-core processors if you actually have an application that will take advantage of them. They are epic if you are running multiple applications simultaneously that can take advantage of the cores. They are epic, but for gaming, we're going to go with a simple, basic dual-core system. It'll be fabulous, especially since it's only drawing 65 watts, the Wolfdale. Shrank the die, shrank the process. It's consuming less power, which we kind of like. 1333 megahertz front side bus and 6 megabytes of L2 cache. And these processors are getting ridiculous.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
We got a motherboard question.
All right.
You want to read this one?
Sure.
Okay.
John writes, I am planning to build a PC either using the 780i motherboard from NVIDIA. If I overclock the Q9450, which has a 1333 megahertz FSB originally, if the FSB rise to over 1330 megahertz, will 780i support the CPU anymore, or should I get a 790i Ultra motherboard?
So John's thinking about doing a little bit of overclocking, a little bit of mayhem, and actually get the 790i. It's basically the latest chipset from NVIDIA. It's got support for DDR3, and Intel processors running it up to 1600 megahertz. Lloyd Case over at ExtremeTech.com had good things to say about the XFX Enforce 790i SLI motherboard. Lots of space for fans, stable, and incredibly overclocking friendly because there are tons of BIOS tweaks in there.
Dude, these names, they just kill me.
Yeah.
Can't they just like try to, it's like the more letters and numbers they can fit in a product name, it's like that across the board.
Well, it's also funny, like when you go to search
and hardware and software.
You go to say like Newegg.com or Tiger or any of the online sites, and you search for like Intel processor or CPU, and you get like 52 SKUs from Intel alone. So SKU is like an individual product code, and it's just completely out of control. And yes.
They just need to hire a really clever person to make up new names for every single one.
The amalgamated D4 7300Z.
No, but not like that. No, like the Phoenix Landing, or like, I don't know. I'm just making up things. The Texilla Duo.
The Texilla 4000.
Yeah. See.
The SUX 6000. Yes. Speaking of which, memory 4 gigabytes of Corsair Dominator DDR3, because we're going to go for the oomph of the DDR3 memory architecture. And oh yeah, just for the mad performance, a pair of NVIDIA GeForce GTX 260 graphics card running an SLI. The 280s just add too much price for us for the performance bump over the 260s.
Oh yeah, and next week we're going to be announcing the monitor and the surround sound speakers. We'll get to those, so
yeah,
you know.
Now, don't forget, we're going to build this on the show. We're going to benchmark it. We're probably going to go over some accessories to go along with it to really round out your gaming experience. And most important of all, we're going to give it away to one of you. So stay tuned. We're going to have, in the next episode or two, all the information you need on how to register to win the fabulous gaming PC that we're building, the sort of badass monster gaming PC, or the monster badass gaming PC.
You lucky little bastards.
Because we can't win it. All right, let's cut it out for a fabulous message from one of our sponsors. Remember, our sponsors are the folks that help us bring the show to you. Mark your calendar, pack your bags, prepare your mind, and get your eyes ready. It's finally here all in one place. Envision 2008, the great big visual computing show. Because the best and brightest developers in design, parallel computing, engineering, and games are converging to elevate creativity, exploit NVIDIA technologies, and share some secrets. It'll be 3 days that jumpstart your ideas, fuel your passion, and move your career years ahead. So register early and get yourself to San Jose, California for 3 days of workshops, industry luminaries, and getting ahead of the curve. Check out the details at www.envision2008.com. And to boot, the fine folks at NVIDIA are donating our choice of gaming components to create a badass gaming system, which we will assemble over the next 3 episodes and give away to a lucky Texilla fan on August 16th. Details to follow in upcoming shows. Remember, folks, support our sponsors. They help us bring the show to you.
You still feeling up to a few more questions?
What's with the poking?
I don't know. Just making sure you're not well done
Pushy.
yet. Nice and tender.
Let's jump into the next person in technology distress. Brian, who's not being poked, writes in, I upgraded my memory from 1 gigabyte to 3 gigabytes, but I don't notice the slightest difference in performance. I know I installed it right because the system spec says that I have 3 gigabytes of memory. Any help in this would be appreciated. I am running Windows Vista 32-bit. Okay.
Wow. The first thing you need to ask yourself, friend, is do you work with large files or say like 16 applications open at the same time? That's usually the biggest, most notable difference when adding more memory. Yeah, you'll also notice that Vista will begin caching a lot more data in RAM, which is good since it doesn't need to access the swap file as much. And of course, to take advantage of RAM beyond 3 gigabytes, you need to move to Vista 64-bit.
Absolutely. I've actually
They're
noticed
nice and tie it up in a little bow for you.
it's really clean. It basically, lots of applications, lots of huge files in the most notable places, and that kind of applies whether or not you're looking at OS 10 or Windows, although I tend to notice that OS 10 responds to more memory in a more noticeable fashion. OS 10 loves the 2 gigabytes.
I think we've got time for one more question.
One more question?
One more.
Who's this one from?
Let's see, this last question comes from Riley, and he asks us, I just cut the Comcast cable and I'm looking to get my HD OTA. I have a UHF antenna that I used to use to get HD, but haven't used it for a few more years. You like the word used a lot, don't you? 2 different people have looked at my antenna and said, after the transition didn't work. Both my LCDs have digital tuners, but they said it's because the broadcasters are changing their VHF analog stations over to digital, implying that they're going to stop the UHF broadcast. Are broadcasters going to cut off all the people that may have bought a UHF antenna to get digital stations? Am I going to need a new antenna come February 2009? Antenna?
Antenna.
New antenna?
Okay, Riley, first of all, the answer is absolutely positively maybe, depending on basically where you live and what the stations are and what they're using. So as the transition to digital TV was announced, broadcasters were allowed to use basically a lot of them had rights to a UHF channel, so they would use the UHF channel to broadcast the digital signal, that fabulous HDTV that looks so amazing over the air. And essentially over the air HD is a digital HD television signal that is sent over the air, so it's not over cable and it's not from satellite. So it's working through an antenna on the top of your roof or rabbit ears on top of your television. And in a lot of cases, these television stations are going to switch from that UHF channel back to their VHF channel, which means, yes, if you spend a bunch of money on a really cool guy UHF antenna, it may not work with that television station, unless, of course, they actually stay using the UHF channel. And the only way to find that out is to research on the internet or call up your favorite local stations and say, hey, what channel are you going to be using? What frequency are you going to be using? Your tuner in your television should be fine. If you have analog, old school, standard def televisions, you're going to need a set-top box that's going to take a digital signal and translate it into something that your standard regular old NTSC television can use. But really, you're going to have to check in your municipality, your locality, wherever you are, to find out what channel they're going to be broadcasting on after the big date when they turn off analog television.
The big date.
The big date.
That's right, it's coming up on us, creeping up.
Slowly.
Slowly, but surely. I don't know. I'm making it freakier sounding than it actually is. But anyhow, thank you all for watching. Hey, we live on your questions, so if you're in the IRC right now complaining that our questions are too easy, then stop bitching and moaning and send us some real questions. Not that those questions aren't real, but that way you won't complain anymore, because we live on them. So email us, techzilla@revision3.com. Tech help, product reviews, how-tos, you ask us, we'll do it, but we need those emails, so you can stop complaining now. So don't be shy and send them in.
TechZilla@revision3.com. Even better, send us a video question so we can see your shiny face on screen. Remember to upload those videos to YouTube, then send us the link. No attachments, please. It's hard on our email servers, and it's just mean to the guys that run the IT lab or the IT department. Don't hurt our IT guys. Send us a link, not an attachment.
So then they don't go into the corner and cry softly?
I'm not allowed to say that anymore. And as always, you can find our forums at revision3.com/forum, and we're going to have a whole bunch of links and stuff from this right up there on the website, revision3.com/techzilla or techzilla.com.
So thank you guys so much for watching.
Until next time, you've been watching Techzilla. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to Techzilla. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Roger Chang.
Really?
I'm serious. Coming up on today's show, Veronica is back from E3, and boy does she have some stuff to tell us about. The excitement, the fun, and of course, the games. We begin the process of cobbling together the monster SLI gaming rig. You wanted to know, and we wanted to build one, so heck, why not? Plus, your viewer questions. So take your potty break if you need one, and wash your hands, cause Techzilla starts now.